So the Pennsylvania Secretary of State, Bukvar, right, who we've mentioned several times here, she is very partisan. She had tweeted a lot about how bad Trump is. She's a Democrat. But she says, listen, I took an oath of office, so I'm not cheating the system. We have the same sort of statement from the Pennsylvania AG. Josh Shapiro says all the votes are going to be counted. And remember that time I tweeted last week about how when all the votes are counted, Biden's going to win? Just ignore that. Okay, it turns out that when you have partisan officials in charge of elections, people tend to get pretty suspicious. Here was Bukvar yesterday.
Look, these were 4 years ago. And at the time, I was not in the administration. I was not in any public service. I was a private citizen. It was a personal Twitter account. And, you know, so that. And then when I became Secretary of State, I took an oath, Dennis, and I took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Constitution of the United States. And partisan politics have no place in the Pennsylvania Department of State or any county elections office.
Okay, so, you know, again, is there a reason for people to be suspicious? Sure. Is there a reason to declare the entire election illegitimate yet? No. Should we see all the evidence come out? Absolutely. And should everybody just take a chill pill and wait for a second while we do all these investigations and while the legal process moves forward? Yes. Okay, meanwhile, in Nevada, similar accusations being made. The Nevada GOP put out a tweet yesterday saying our lawyers just sent a criminal referral to AG Barr regarding at least 3,062 instances of voter fraud. We expect that number to grow substantially. Thousands of individuals have been identified who appear to have violated the law by casting ballots after they moved from Nevada. This is one of the big problems with mail-in ballots generally. Seriously, it's a real problem with mail-in ballots, and it's been a problem for a long time. Right? Jimmy Carter once said that mail-in ballots were rife with the possibility of fraud. I mean, this makes perfect sense, right? I just moved from California to Florida shortly before the election. And then I had my mail forwarded to me, right? So I looked at my mail, and there they were, my California ballots. And my California ballots arrived in Florida. Now, were I an unscrupulous person, I could theoretically fill out those ballots, vote in California, and then also vote in Florida. Now, I wouldn't do that because it's illegal and because it's immoral. But could people do that? Of course. When you send out a bunch of ballots to people's addresses, assuming they still live there, that does open the possibility of voter fraud. Could somebody have come by my house and picked up the mail in my mailbox while I wasn't there and filled those out and I don't live there anymore and then the ballot gets filled out? Sure. Right? I mean, the possibilities of voter fraud are real. That does not mean that the evidence of voter fraud is necessarily going to materialize in the numbers that you would need in order to shift a major national election. With that said, the Nevada GOP did issue a letter to the Clark County, Nevada District Attorney alleging voter fraud by people who are not legal residents of Clark County. The firm of Weir Law Group, LLC, sent a letter to Marianne Miller, who is indeed the Clark County, Nevada District Attorney, suggesting that a bunch of illegal ballots have been accepted. They say this firm, in conjunction with Harvey and Benally PLLC, represents Donald Trump for president. As you know, we've been concerned for months about improper ballots being cast in the 2020 general election. Yet Joseph Gloria has yet to take any reasonably basic and fundamental steps to ensure mail ballots are free from fraud and abuse. His inaction has had and continues to have material adverse consequences on our election security. We have confirmed thousands of votes have been cast improperly. Indeed, we have initially identified over 3,000 voters who moved from Nevada before the election but still cast ballots in this election. We verified this by cross-referencing the list of general election voters with publicly available change of address records. For example, demographic experts agree the National Change of Address database only captures about 1/3 of relocations, so we think that this number will likely grow by 6,000 voters at a minimum. Okay, well, that starts to look closer to the margin of error in Nevada given the current vote counts. And so, again, all of this should be checked into. Now, does that mean that every allegation of voter fraud is real? No. Does it mean that every voter irregularity report is real? No. It does mean, once again, for the 1,000th time, just as I said earlier this week, you shouldn't declare victory in an election until all the votes have been counted. This holds true for every single side, and I am amused at the Democrats who say that this is only true so long as Donald Trump is declaring victory, but it is not true if Joe Biden or his team are declaring victory. If the Democrats declare victory, we all go home happy. If the Republicans declare victory, they're very immoral and bad. Right? That is the way the logic of the media and the Democrats work.